So I'm in a position now of having a record that's starting to sell a lot, and of course it eventually gets into number 6 in the charts. I'm obviously recognising that Gangsters is the main hit, but along the way I've achieved quite a good set of reviews from the music papers for my track as well, and I'm getting lots of feedback from people saying they really like it, and what am I going to do next? And I'm thinking, well, if I had a band, it would be useful, but I had a great band a few weeks ago, but I haven't got one anymore. So I started to think, what can I do? And I'd already known Charlie and all those guys that I met down in the Hollywood Youth Centre. At that point, they were in a band, a roots reggae band called Hardtop 22. So I approached Charlie and said, look, I need a band. I want to make a new band called The Selector based on the success of this record. I was under the impression that Charlie had actually talked to the other members of Hardtop 22 before I was going to arrive, but he actually hadn't. So there was a bit of confusion when I walk into the rehearsal, and as usual I'm the only white guy there, and I'm thinking, hang on, nobody knows what I'm talking about here. And they're all going, who's this guy? What's he on about? What's he talking about? And Charlie going, yeah man, I should have told you, you know. Yes, he should have. So there's a lot of confusion at first during that. I think that was in Sydney Stringer School. What we ended up with was H on drums, and he hadn't played drums necessarily in a band before so much. He played bass, and he was a good bass player. I'd play with him in a couple of different bands with him on the bass during the 70s. Because there was lots of other offshoot bands going on as well as the main ones that I've outlined. So at that point, H really wanted to go over onto the drums, and I said to him, "You've never really played drums before. Are you sure you can?" He said, "Trust me, I really want to do this." I went, okay. We set up, and he got a drum kit. He set that up. We had Charlie on the bass, and Desmond on the Hammond, and Compton Amana on the guitar, and Gaps Hendrickson, who, when I first met him down at the Hollywood Youth Centre, used to play rhythm guitar at that point, and he wasn't really so much interested in playing the guitar at this particular point in time, I don't think, but he was definitely, we wanted him to be involved because of what he could do. We knew what he could do.
Yeah, as I recall, we had this band Hardtop 22, and we had about 3 gigs to do because we were getting fed up of getting nowhere. That's been going on for about 4 or 5 years, and I remember sitting at home one night getting completely fed up, and Charlie came up to my place and he says to me, Gaps, come here, Linval is down my house. He wants a meeting about us being on the Two-Tone label, etc, etc. And I said, no man, I'm not interested. And then he said, no, come on, let's go. Anyway, I went down there, and the gist of it is that basically they're going to give us some money to record 3 songs, and then they will take it from there, and they expect us to be in the charts in about 2-3 weeks time. And that was it. Well, you can imagine that the earth sort of moved everything sort of. So yeah, that was a really, really good period in my life, yeah.
I'd seen the kind of gigs that were happening from going to the specials gigs, the special AKA as they were then, and I could see that this is the energy that we're bringing to this was just too much for my voice. My voice was not able to cut above the sound of these guys in a room, because I like to play loud. So did Desmond. I mean, screaming Hammond organ, it was a fantastic sound, and we all made a big sound straight away, and it was all very exciting. So days, weeks go by, not that long goes by after we start rehearsing it like that, and then we're aware that somehow we could do with, you know, a singer, and that's where Pauline was invited into the rehearsal, and her voice was so loud and clear that it was a no-brainer. At that point we became a unit.
They were supporting the Ruts somewhere, and no idea where it was. So said, "Do you want to come and have a listen to, you know?" Because we decided I was going to produce the record. But I thought, well, what record, what song? So we went along to the gig to listen to their set, and there was one track out of all their songs that jumped out at me like a sore thumb. It was because that's what I'm listening for. I'm listening to all their tracks, and I'm listening for the most commercial. The thing is with a single, it's not about what is the best song, what are the best, most meaningful lyrics. It's about the most rememberable track, because that's what, you know, that's what hits people. And anyway, by the end of the night, I was quite clear on what their most commercial track was. But I had no idea what the title was. I didn't take a note of, I wasn't sitting there with a notepad and pen writing song titles down, because to me everything's always been in there, you know, in my head.
It was difficult to pick out which one could be the best possible one, because at that point that was an unknown art to us. We'd not had to deal with that kind of thought process at that point, because we'd just been engaged in trying to learn our instruments, trying to learn how to write songs, trying to learn how to form a band and get gigs, and do all that kind of basic thing, always aspiring to make records eventually. That's all I wanted to do from when I was a teenager, was to make albums. And so what we chose as the right song to be first out wasn't particularly easy, but what we did was to go into the studio with Roger Lamas, into Horizon Studios.
So they played all these songs because I'm listening for the bloody song that I heard on the gig, and I couldn't even sing you one note of the song. All I knew is one song jumped out at me. Didn't know what it was called. So anyway, I'm scratching my head thinking I'm going mad, because I haven't heard this track. It didn't jump out at me. And I said, and they said, "What do you reckon?" They said, "Because we know what we want. We want Too Much Pressure as the A side." And I'm thinking, yeah, but there's another track and I haven't heard it. I haven't heard it. To say, well, that's all on. And I said, look, I'm not going mad. The song that I know that I picked out on the night, that's not on that recording. And so they're all scratching their heads, thinking, well, no, that's all of them, you know. And then somebody in the background said, well, no, we have got one we haven't done. Well, what? On my radio. And they're all saying, no, we don't want to do that. No, that's bloody Eurovision Song Contest type song. We don't want to do that, you know, that's not what we're all about.
It was difficult to think what was going to be the best first single for us to do, the best first song to choose because at the same time the offer of recording a single was on the table from the Specials. Their deal with Chrysalis enabled them to sign 6 different acts a year with a guaranteed release. So any band or act that they wanted to fund, they would give £1,000 recording budget, and you would record a single for Two Tone, and that would be guaranteed a release on Two Tone, which is an amazing deal. No other record deal had done that before, really, because they made a deal with not only the band but also Jerry's label, the Two Tone Records label. Now, the offer was on the table for us to be part of that and to make a record on Two Tone with this one-off agreement.
I said, well, look, do me a favour, go back in, it's all set up, go back in and play it, because I still don't know whether that's the one or not, because the title of the song means nothing to me. Sure enough, they go in and play it. I thought, that's it. I said, that's the one. That's your single. I'm not knocking too much pressure. That is a great song, but On My Radio is the one.
The original lyric sheet is here in the museum, and it's easy to see that it's quite mashed up, and you can see folds and bits torn out of it. That's because I had this terrible habit of carrying around lots of bits of paper in my back jeans pocket, so I'd fold up things like that and put them in my pocket and get them out every now and again. There'd usually be a pile about that thick, and I'd sort through them and I'd maybe and put them back in my pocket and keep them like that, which is ridiculous really. And after a while I started becoming a little bit more aware that I needed to keep them in a folder and something, but by then it had already been in my pocket for some time, and worked on quite a lot, and bits crossed out and everything.
I knew On My Radio was the one. That was the one that was going to break the band. So I said, look, let the record company there to decide. They're the ones that have got to go out trying to convince everybody that it's the best thing since sliced bread, and you know what I mean. They're the ones that are going to go and market it and promote it. Let them decide. We'll send them finished 3 copies, you know. Well, of course, immediately everybody, and I mean everybody, immediately said, you know, On My Radio.
It became obvious that On My Radio and Too Much Pressure were the best ones to put together as a single, even though perhaps Too Much Pressure could have been a single, an A-side in its own right. The whole ethos of Two Tone was to not have throwaway B-sides, to give value for money. The single price that you paid should have 2 good tracks on it, and Jerry used to believe that, I believed that passionately. We just wanted to deliver a really quality thing.
On My Radio was chosen because we actually went into Horizon Studios and we had a deal with Two Tone Records via Jerry Dammers, who gave us £1,000 to go in and record some demos. That's what we thought we were doing. We recorded Street Feeling, which was on the first album. We recorded Too Much Pressure, and we recorded On My Radio. I'm not really sure that On My Radio was the first choice of everybody until we'd recorded it, as it were, but the record company got to hear it, and they were the ones who were going to distribute it via Two Tone, and that would have been Chrysalis at the time, and they thought that On My Radio had the right kind of poppy ingredients and quirky vocal, all of those kind of things, and the rather strange kind of rhythm that goes over the bridge part of it is just the same, oh, show On My Radio, and I think people actually quite like that. And I also think that Kate Bush had out Wuthering Heights at the time, and so women kind of tootling up in the sort of upper falsetto region was something of wonder to some people, I guess.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the vast amount of record that was told by the record company how much the single was selling, and I just my jaw dropped because it was selling something like 19,000 copies a day, and I went, oh, you know, and yeah, the whole period of that from being from Hard Top 22 to the selector was just mind-blowing, you know. But I'm glad to say that I've kept my feet safely on the ground.
On My Radio, one of my favourites, because not only is it Coventry people making music for Coventry people to dance to, it also showed at the time how bland radio actually was, and took the mick out of them in a way. The drumming from H is absolutely superb on it, and really adds to the sound, and it's the earthiness of it is really adds to the song.
My favourite drum bit was the bit in On My Radio, that
Oh yeah.
H's bit. That's a classic bit of that's a brilliant little line.
We've got African, Caribbean, white, male, female, but look, we're working together. And to me that was an obvious cultural statement in itself, which we really wanted to highlight. We're more than a band, and it's not, we're not just taking a political sloganeering stance. by our very existence and working together and being so good at what we're doing here, we're demonstrating that this works. This really works. It's not easy. It's not perfect. We have problems, but it works. We want to make it work. And if we can do it, so can everybody else.
I'd already done a runner from Coventry when I was 16, and I ended up by some strange quirk of fate living in London, going to see my brother's band supporting, I don't know, Buzzcocks I think it was. And I was so excited about how the music was going, and my brother in his band and everybody, you know, clapping and shouting, and the energy of, I guess, the post-punk area of time. I said to my brother, well, how'd you do that, Nee? I really want to do that. Because I was just like, the energy. And he said, oh, you've got to write songs, Hayes. You've got to write songs. So I said, would you show me? So he did. The Flies did my first demos with me. I then hawked those demos around to different record companies, getting lots of doors slammed in my face. And then one day I went into this company called Albion. Yes! Should have walked straight out, but anyway I didn't. And they go, oh yes, we'd love to sign you. And they signed me, to cut the story shorter, for £1. And I was so thrilled that somebody wanted me, which is a problem that young musicians have. Well, we all have it as human beings, don't we? Sometimes if somebody says they want you, you feel so great about it that you make terrible mistakes. And I'm no different. So I did the deal with them for the £1, and then I had no money for my rent, so I was answering the telephones for them for 2 weeks. And on the first day of answering the telephones, a phone call came from a company that was going to make this film Breaking Glass. And they said, oh, can we speak to the bosses? And I said, no, the bosses are all out to lunch, literally. And I said, actually, I'm the only person here at the moment, can I help you? And they said, we're looking for somebody called Hazel O'Connor. She's a singer on the label. And I said, that's me. And then I didn't hear from the film company for a little while, and it seemed to me like years I hadn't heard from them. It was probably maybe 6 weeks. And at the same time I'd done a little gig, and the record company had promised me £5 per band member. So I went in to get me 4 fivers for my band, and at that time they said, come in here a minute, Hazel, come in here. And I went into their office, and for about 2 hours they pummeled me mentally with, you really need to sign this new contract now. It's time, we've spent a lot of money on you. If you don't sign it now, nobody else will want you. Look at that film company, they've disappeared. A lot of that kind of thing, which again, everybody has experienced in their life. It doesn't have to be about show business. You know how people can degrade your value by telling you you're a piece of nothing. Anyway, so I bought it and I signed this contract, even though my solicitor had said, don't sign it, please don't sign it yet, it's not ready. Nearly being a self-destructive sort of thing. And after I signed that contract, the very next day, the film company phoned me at home on my home phone, which they usually didn't do because they first got in touch with me through the record company when I was the telephonist. And but they got me at home and they said, have you heard the news? We've got great news for you. And I said, no, what news? We changed the whole script. It's going to be rewritten, and we want you to play the lead. So I think that, she says to camera, that they already knew. When they decided they were going to let me play the lead, I immediately went home, they sent me a script, and I don't know about reading scripts, but I just went, quickly looked through it and thought, where's the songs? And you know, they kind of marked where the songs would be and what the song was about. And the original script was written by a fella called Howard Schuman, who some people will remember this series on TV called Rock Follies. It wasn't my cup of tea, and it frightened me that he was going to be writing a script about street people, you know, the punk scene, and I felt that he knew nothing about it, so it really worried me. And then when I saw the lyrics to the songs that were in this script, the first script, they were just banal and not how we all spoke in those days, how it was. So I just thought, well, I'll just look at the subjects and then I'll try and put something together. And I started to do that. So anything that was banal in the script that I saw, I erased it, put something else in, went to the producers, said, I've got an idea for a song. I think the first one actually was Big Brother, because the reason in the script was the song had to have something to do with being so offensive that BBC Radio wouldn't play it. That was for the plot of the script. And so I thought, well, you know, and in those days, it seems so really soft now, but in those days, you know, to say the word arse on radio would be unthinkable. The BBC would bleep it. So that's the first one I looked at, the song that was supposed to not get played on the radio. And I thought, ooh. And I could say all the things I wanted to say, how I felt politically at the time, which was just fabulous. And as I did it, they started going, oh, maybe we should let Hazel write another song. Oh, maybe we should let Hazel do the whole soundtrack. And I'm inside my head going, yes, yes. And that's how it came about. For me, this is how it was. It's lunchtime. We've worked since 6:30 in the morning. And it's 12:30, and I'm going, yeah, because I love food, what am I going to have? And all that silly little stuff that you do every day in your life. And suddenly the PR person from the studio comes up and says, no, Hazel, we've got the Daily Mail coming in at 1:15, and then at 1:15 for 15 minutes you've got a radio interview on the telephone, and then it's back to work. And I thought, oh, that's nice. For a bit, and then after weekend and continuous working